And during the last neighborhood watch meeting, it was brought up about the water down there, that Eldridge got the money, and it was taken to the water was taken only to his family's house, and the water was stopped there. And there's concerns as to when Big Eldridge should be getting water
Well, it's,
down
Rick, he's real familiar with that.
down further that way.
There's an additional project, actually 2 phases of a project. It's, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was like $8 or $10 million to do all the rest of Big Ugly. I mean, that's a big place. But there is another project, or actually 2 phases of another project to go beyond that.
One of those.
Well, it's just, you know, connecting there to Eldridge's and going halfway, and then the second half, you know, on up, like toward the public hunting area, that area.
So that's being planned, or is that in the works, or is it already funded, or?
No, it's not funded, it's being planned. We did like preliminary layouts on it. We again submitted it to the AML, and AML unfortunately turned it down as well. But,
Yeah, we haven't got any in Lincoln yet. We did the Woodville Alcohol as AML.
yeah.
With a different group, and got turned down too. They've got all kinds of money.
Well, yeah, they're a great deal if you can get it. It has to be
60% of the
eligible.
funding or something.
Yeah, it has to be eligible.
Okay, thank you all.
The next thing on the agenda is the hearing on the road closure at Beecher Avenue. Commissioners, we received a petition from Harrison Jr. and Heather Bell that they were wanting to have the road closed on Beecher Avenue on the L.H. Kamak addition. In 1989, August the 3rd of 1989, Bill Atkins and Cheryl and Billy Bryant had petitioned the commission at that time to have that same road closed. And it was voted on and approved by the county commission to close that road pending the Department of Highways report from them. And that's where it dropped. There is nothing, there is commission orders, there's maps and things, but there is nothing stating that it was ever totally approved to close the Beecher Avenue Road. So, and the reason they found this out, they were going to put in a trailer, and the bank had came across this order. So, if we had, Jackie advised the county commission to go back and start fresh. So they petitioned to have the road closed. It was ran in the paper for 2 weeks on the 17th and the 24th day of October. Notification has been sent out to all the adjacent property owners that we were having the hearing tonight. So we just have to see if there's anyone objecting for the road to be closed. If there's no objections, then we need to just go ahead and approve for the road to be closed at Beecher Avenue.
Billy did call me today, and he said his mother-in-law's in the hospital. He couldn't be here, but he didn't think there was any objections from any of the landowners. He talked to them. Of course, they did get notices, and we did meet with one of them this evening before the meeting, and that was Bill and Cheryl Bryant. They just really let us know that they did not have an objection as it's presented. And, so I think that all we're trying to do is go back and complete what was started in '89 and not tie it to the Department of Highways. They just, I don't know why they did that. It wasn't necessary because it is a county road and it's part of the subdivision. If the landowners do not object, the county commission subdivisions, they can close it. Doesn't mean that it can be built on or anything like that. It just closed, and they can sow grass, they can have a lawn, those kind of things, fence it in, but they cannot build on it. So, and they understand that. So, any discussions before I ask for a vote? I I'd entertain a motion to close the road on Beecher Avenue as presented by Ms. Johnson.
Second.
Get a motion and second. All yes, motion carries. Now, what is the process of this one? What do we need to do to make sure we don't,
Upon the commission signing the order, I will send a copy, a certified copy, to the Department of Highways as well as Alan Holder. And the reason I have to send it to Alan Holder for emergency services, in case it shows on the map that that's a street that goes straight through, the emergency services will know where, that there is a street closure. And then the Department of Highways, they will know as well. Next thing on the agenda, I need a motion to approve a donation in the amount of $5,500 to the Lincoln County Opportunity Company Incorporated to be able to continue and maintain the meals program at the McCorville Center.
I'll second that.
motion and second, being all yes vote, motion carries.
Next thing on the agenda is Rick McDowell and Ryan Jefferson for the Phase 4 Green Wastewater Program.
Welcome, guys.
Evening.
Another update. I need chocolate on me.
No, I don't see any chocolate.
All right. Make sure press takes a picture. I don't want a big hunk of. First page just goes over some things that we've been doing. I think most of it's stuff that we do every month, meetings with the community, work in the field. On the 22nd of the last month, we met with the DEP to talk about this adapter repair thing that we talked about at the last couple of meetings. We had met prior to that with Wiseman, hoping that we could reach some sort of an agreement or an accommodation where they'd be willing to say, okay, you know, we'll bear some of the costs if some other organizations would bear some of the costs. They weren't willing to do that. They felt that they had done what they were supposed to do and that they couldn't move forward doing any retrofits unless they were paid. So that was not what we were hoping would happen. So we went to the DEP, have a meeting with them there in the DEP about this. Although we thought initially that the DEP was going to have a harder line, you know, in the sand, that they were not going to be willing to cross. In the end, the DEP felt that Wiseman's point of view was acceptable to them. So where we are now is Wiseman is going to, we're talking about 7 installations, 7 home installations. Wiseman is going to go to one of those, and they're going to retrofit that. They're going to, you know, go down, take out the old adapters, put in new ones, and we'll be there timing them to see exactly how long this takes. One of the things we learned from the last time is that it was a good idea to put in the specs something about the fact that change orders could not be more than X percentage of the cost. So this set of specs that we had said that we weren't allowed more than 15% combined overhead and profit in any change order. So the most that they could get would be 15% above what, you know, if they say, okay, it takes 5 hours to do this, they can only go 15% more than that. We've got $20,000 built into the budget. You'll see on the second page, number 6, future change orders. So we've got money in that. They're estimating at this point that it might take between $1,000 and $1,200 per site. So we've got 7 sites. So we have money to cover it. We were going to do it. What day were we going to? We were thinking to do it. We were going to do this on Monday, last Monday. Of course, that was not a very good day. We haven't had a good day since. We don't want to go in there when it's really mucky.
Yeah.
So the thought right now is that we're going to do it next Monday. Other thing we talked about with the DEP that we haven't had any progress on was the idea that the people who make the risers and the lids and the tanks, that's the Infiltrator company and the Polylock company, also bear some responsibility because they were the ones who provided the instructions that we learned later on were not correct. So we came back after a meeting with the DEP, wrote a draft letter. We thought, because the DEP suggested that we contact these two companies and say, we think it would be a good faith effort on your part if you would help us with some of this cost. We wrote a letter, sent it to the DEP. It's almost like the bidding specs and all the stuff that we've done in the past, they still haven't gotten back to us about this 3/4 of a page draft letter.
Yes, longer.
So we've asked them a couple times, friends, can we move this forward? So I don't know what's going to happen, whether we're ever going to get a letter sent to these people. My feeling at this point is that we've got to get these things fixed. We're moving into bad weather. It's going to mess up the systems if we don't. That maybe we just go ahead and fix them, take the money out of the $20,000 contingency, and if we can finally get the DEP to approve this letter to these two companies, then we take that money and make some adjustments.
But with the 20,000, that will be adequate in your opinion?
I think so. And we're looking at the most maybe $1,500 times 7. So
So, yeah, she's not too
we've
bad.
got to. So that's where we are with that.
Chalk it up as a loss and move on.
I guess that's what we got to do. I mean, we certainly have to move on it. The other thing that we've got going on that is important is tomorrow, during decent weather, Ryan and I, along with Jimmy Kasdorf, who's the county sanitarian, and Ryan Harbison, who's the district sanitarian, are going to go out and look at 3 different homes with the idea that we think, if you look at the budget there, 6 and 7. 6 is future change orders, we got that $20,000 there, and 7 is construction contingency, we got $28,000 there. I think we're gonna have enough money to put in 1 extra system. And so we're gonna go out tomorrow and begin the process of evaluating 3 homes to figure out which one of those 3 homes might be the one that we put the extra system. And we wanna try to get that done so we can get that process started. The page you're looking at with the budget, the far left-hand side's our approved budget. You can see that total budget from the DEP was almost $760,000. $575,000 is construction, so most of the money's in the actual putting these systems in. On the far right-hand side, the final column shows you what's remaining. The one before that, that's D, is what's spent. So out of the 760, we've spent at this point 316,000, and we've got 443,000 left. A lot of that 443 is tied up in these 7 systems that we haven't paid Wiseman for because they are not up to our standards. So once those happen, this amount is going to drop significantly.
And assuming you're going to go ahead with Wiseman into retrofit, all that, once you figure out what's going to cost, but are you still going to hold their payment of their big payment until they get everything satisfied?
They, on their contract, for each one of their homes, they get 40% when they have the tanks in correctly, and then they get 60% less $3,000 of that home when the final inspection happens, where the DEP or the DHHR, in this case it's the DHHR checks off on it. We keep that $3,000 until all 12 of the systems are completed. So we've got some money, $36,000 that we're holding until everything is done, everybody's signed off, the homeowners are satisfied, everything's finished, and then they'll get that. So we do have that, plus we've got a 5% bid bond that their bond company has guaranteed that they're holding in case there's any other problems.
Okay.
That's where we are with that, and hopefully, before any more snow flies, we'll have this thing resolved. And at our next meeting, we've invited Ryan Harbison, who's our district sanitarian, to come.
That's the new guy.
No, well, he's not too, Jimmy's the local. This
Well,
is,
he
the-
was-
and we'd like to give him a plaque just to show our appreciation for Ryan. And we're inviting him to there. We thought that'd be a good time to show him, boy, we really live it up here in Lincoln. So we'll do that. And Ryan's got a few
One more
things.
item?
I've got a couple of things to talk about. Just quick updates on Phase 5. I've been drumming up some interest, rolling down through the Mud River. Got really good responses so far, and I actually made an extra meeting, as we had discussed before. You know, I might have to make an extra meeting to make sure that everybody can come to 4 meetings before that cutoff date. And I've got 5 people that have already agreed that, oh, we're going to be there November the 12th. So that's good news, you know, for me. I think I've been pretty satisfied with that. Now, part of that will also be, you know, similar to what we're doing with this home evaluation on Friday. We also still have to evaluate if, you know, new homeowners will be able to receive septic systems based on, you know, if it's failing, if they don't have a system at all. You know, because I talked to a couple of people and they said, you know, well, my aerator is only 4 years old. You know, you might not qualify. So I just kind of tell people, well, it's, you know, it's not guaranteed, you know, but we'll just, you know, we'll see what it looks like. If it fails, then we can still, you know, give them a new system, but it just all depends on whether or not they have a failing one or not. And then also, we kind of talked a little bit about this meeting at the DEP. Something I'd like to kind of ask from the commission is, first I want to make an argument towards the importance of continued education training, especially for me as the new project director, I guess, here pretty soon once Phase 5 rolls through. Basically, my ideas are, you know, when I first started this project, I really had no idea what a septic system looked like. You know, I didn't have any kind of training, any kind of idea of what I was getting myself into. And I think that the more training and education that I can get under my belt, the better off I'll be, and the better off the project will be in the future in trying to avoid problems proactively as opposed to reactively. I mean, even like, for example, perfect example, these cracked adapter rings. I mean, if I had known to look at all these different components while I was there on site, while these people were installing that, I could have maybe caught that before. Now here we are in the middle of this mess, you know, with, you know, wintertime, we've got problems that need to be fixed. If I had known, you know, a little better about that kind of stuff, I probably would have been able to go, oh, well, that's an issue, you know. So basically, my point is, I think it's really important to not only keep that continued education training up, like I just went to the training for home aeration units not too long ago. It's also important to make connections with people in the wastewater, you know, business, because it's constantly diversifying and increasing rapidly. It's hard to actually really understand all types of technologies if you don't have any kind of previous knowledge on it, as well as, you know, there may be other cheaper options, you know, that, I mean, because, you know, these peat modules work really well, but they're slightly expensive. I mean, a normal homeowner would not be able to afford such a thing. Well, yeah, just all.
Well, and I think that's been the concern of this commission all along is we like to see all this different types of systems, but we need something that our people can afford.
Right.
It's not they don't want to do it, it's what we can afford.
Right. So my favor of asking is, I would like to ask the commission to consider a motion to donate the project $500 to go to a wastewater exposition myself coming up the next, it'll be spring, coming up spring, because the DEP will not allow us to spend project money on training. There's some kind of regulation saying that they're not allowed to do it. It can only be spent towards the construction as well as, you know, supplies for the project and the administrative fees. I made the same case I just made to you guys at the DEP, and they said, well, that all sounds good, but our hands are tied and we can't provide any funding for training. You know,
We might do that too.
yeah, you might. I was just hoping that I might be able to go, and, you know, I just feel like the last time I went, I was able to learn, because not only is it, you know, connections with people, but you also take classes when you're there. Like I took 2 days worth of classes, and I was like, man, I really learned a lot. I'd love to go again, but you know, if there's no money, then I can't do that. And I just kind of feel like, if I'm really looking at trying to be a new director or project director, it's just like I feel like any type of extra training I can get under my belt, I'm gonna get it or try to.
You already probably know a lot more than Rick when he started on this project.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and Rick's been pretty instrumental in the
Oh, yeah.
education as well as training, so he's helped me quite a bit.
Learn as you go. Cheap too.
Right.
I don't charge $500.
That's right. So I was just something I wanted to ask the commission to consider. I'll
Okay,
take
we'll
your answer.
address that at the next agenda.
And we probably wouldn't be, I'm not sure it would be that you would give the project money, we just submit the bills.
Hey, we'll work it through our normal travel.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you all.